Community-built association is all kinds of different people, different professions that like to incorporate the community in their practice. That's simply put. So there's musicians and city planners and landscape architects and land-based artists and everybody in between who like to, let's get the neighbors together, let's get the community together to do this thing. And every 2 years, somewhere in the US, we meet, and we're lucky that this year it's here. Some days I think we're not that lucky. You need to get a little bit more. And then you can also use this, Carlina. A component of every CBA conference is, hey, what's working, what's not working? Robin, what do you think? The darker? Let's look at some pictures, let's talk. And another component, which is traditional, is we do hands-on projects. So when we were looking for a hands-on project, I thought of the library and I said, maybe this year it will happen.
I should have when I went into the size here, hold the frame together.
Sand down the edges so nobody cuts themselves on it. It's pretty sharp right here.
Yeah. And these pointy corners.
Yeah. So you take a piece of wood wrapped around the sandpaper, and you're going to get the inside and the outside. Want to give that a shot? So you gotta keep the wood in it, because the wood is gonna be what,
What's this from?
no idea. That just appeared.
Concrete Couch is a 501c3 nonprofit, and our mission is basically to build community through creative projects. So that's really broad, and it's intentionally that way. So anything that builds community, that gets people together, qualifies for a Concrete Couch project.
You do a light smear right on the cement board, like that, and then you butter the back of the tile with a thicker amount. And you want to hear that scrapey sound.
So I came involved with Concrete Couch last year when I was selected as their public interest fellow through Colorado College. I like kids and I like art, so that's why I'm here.
The creative element really is broad. So Craig's like our perfect participant, because he came in with an idea actually for a nonprofit, which is really great. And we had to recycle materials, but they're going to be plenty good for what we need to do, and it'll last 2 years. And everything he needs to get here, from the wood to the screws to the paint, we have hinges, whatever else you need.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be like one of my art pieces. It's going to be a little similar kind of thing.
Okay, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
They're going to be super psyched.
And who's this gentleman with the camera?
We have the same end goals as we would have if we were taking everyone on a hike or doing a reading program or doing math camp. Same end goals. We want everyone to feel better about themselves and improve their skills and feel part of the community. But instead of doing math, we're making art, so it's a lot more fun.
People learn skills, they got to meet their neighbors. The community building element, I think, is really strong. Everybody look up here for a second. Hello. So here's Jay's. He's mostly done. So at this point, I actually want to have you grout it. So 90% of this will be done. And then you can go back in and you can mortar on the rest of your tiles.
I don't remember not knowing Steve. It's been a long time.
Middle school, maybe even elementary.
I think it was in elementary school when I started doing projects with Steve.
Hey, Dakota, we're gonna head out.
Okay. All right, thanks. Good job. So yeah, I've known Steve forever, and so I worked with Concrete Couch as a kid, and now I'm actually helping as an assistant with Concrete Couch. So.
So being a public artist that works with community groups, I'm always on the lookout for sites.
I love this wall.
And I've been looking at this wall at Penrose Library for a number of years. Come down, go over 18 inches. One more time going across, 22 inches.
Still looks good, don't you think?
It's a big wall. It's a beautiful wall. It faces south, so it opens up the door to relief elements that will catch the sun and shadow, kind of that like Aztec or Incan style of art. And from a structural standpoint, it's 13 feet tall, which is tall, but it's not that tall. So structurally, we could make it work. Obviously, the library had been looking at that wall for years and years too, thinking, great wall, let's put some art up there. And I know they wanted to make sure it was a really good piece, so it took them a while to come around to like, okay, let's work with the community and make it happen.
Several community members and Concrete Couch, had approached the library a couple different times about creating a mural, and I think the timing was just never exactly right. But then Old Colorado City had a community mural project that went very well. After we got the go-ahead, it was a matter of getting a steering committee together, which was a couple of members of the library district, but then also looking for a couple of community members, art enthusiasts, donors, people from the downtown area.
What you're seeing here is 5 sections of wall separated by a metal relief unit, which is a motif element from the Carnegie Library, which is up above.
It was about kind of looking at elements of the Pikes Peak region, as well as kind of themes that the library is involved with. So things like lifelong learning and education. Part
of the beauty of the community built is we could offer to do it for pennies on the dollar. So they make a small contribution to the mural, but the lion's share is raised by the community, created by the community. It's a big community barn raising of artistic endeavor. Recycling the old glaze. Once it gets chunky, nobody wants it.
Yeah.
These are $10, $15 per container. Most of our materials we get not just donated, but recycled. We did get new clay for the majority of this project, just because we really wanted to ensure there was the right clay body and it would last, 100 years on the wall. But we did have it donated, and that was Pikes Peak Community College's contribution. The library always thought we'll raise $80,000, and that's a lot of money. So they kept kicking that down the road. Eventually we'll do this because the wall deserves fantastic treatment, professional treatment. We always knew that we'd get foundation support and the community would come together, but actually the biggest piece is business support through in-kind donations. And that's the thing that separates the community built from just normal industry and business doing a project, even professional public artists. The welding that Pikes Peak Community College did, they probably got $700 worth of metal in it. But the material is always the small part. They bought the metal, and it was a learning experience for their students. So they were happy to contribute. And lots of little things. So the powder coating, that probably would have been a $1,500 job. They did it for $300. And all the masonry supplies, the mortar, the grout, cement board, that was Capco. That was probably $1,000, $1,200. You think that's going to work and you hope it's going to work, but it in fact did work. Everything came through that we needed. And then the fundraising part, there's lots and lots of folks that wrote a $1,000 check. So to have $500,000, $2,000 checks from business folks, local philanthropists, that helped. Good people, it's coming alive. That's kind of dirty. That's good for the black. We wanted the whole community involved. And that's an easy thing to say, and it's a hard thing to do. Like, come on, community. Well, everyone's got their lives and their jobs and their fun things they're already doing. So you really got to work at that. So instead of having one group, like let's meet at the library and have people show up once a week, we actually went out into the community and found schools and kind of community hubs that would host us.
Nice. We're working with 5 different community groups, and each group is open to the public.
We had all sorts of them. One was in a different college and this one college.
And then once you've got it in all the holes, then you do this final like that, and you're gonna pick up a little bit extra, and you can start doing it here, and you can pick all this off the table.
We have kids, students at an alternative high school.
What's up, dude?
Developmentally disabled adults.
Oh, hi.
Friends, neighbors, people getting community service hours, students, National Honor Society, people looking to fulfill enough hours to get their credits.
Elijah, can you put some more on the board?
Point is community building, and we're doing that through art and by making a giant mural.
You gotta find your next color.
Some of them come because they're artists, some of them come because they want to meet their neighbors, some come because it sounds cool, why not? Some come because they want to be part of the community or leave a positive mark on the area and have a good sense of place in the area.
Oh yeah, let's put some red in there. In fact,
Yeah, it's a totally different color. That'd be good.
I went to community prep school, and that was a fascinating group to be a part of because it was a really diverse mixture from high school students, and then we had community volunteers. We had members from the local mosaic group, so these were adults with developmental disabilities that came, and everybody really got along really well. They really were enthusiastic about the project. I mean, sometimes we would have 40 people in that room creating some of the tiles, influencing the larger elements.
This bad boy is gonna go right there. Are you getting a handle on this?
Too nice.
I am.
Donna's rocking.
Will Rogers Elementary was really fascinating because you had a lot of the elementary students and their parents. There was a lot of clubs there, so that they were really excited about getting some of their themes and things that they were working on at school into the project as well.
Look at this, beautiful work through there. And the panel's starting to jump. Each group met for 9 or 10 sessions, and we just all basically did the same class for each of the 5. And we started with really simple technical sessions. How do you work with clay? How do you stamp clay? Will it look like when it's grouted? And then we progressed to designing their individual mosaic panel and fabricating it and learning all the techniques inherent in mosaic work. With the 5 sections, each one has a theme, and that gave them something to dig into.
You want to hear the scratching of the board underneath.
So we've got life, we've got imagination and knowledge, we've got innovation and technology. So library kinds of themes, learning, knowledge, exploration. And each one of those themes is explored on a panel, and those float across the wall. And then connecting them are metal units that kind of reflect the architecture of the surrounding, namely the Carnegie Library, as well as really funky homemade metal elements. And then connecting it all together are going to be these earth-toned rectangular tiles.
I'm gonna finish and then you can smush it.
I think that's good. Okay.
Wiggle them a little bit.
I didn't really have one set goal. I did some leaves, I did some fossils, I did a little bit of everything.
So you can go through here. And me, I like to cut one, put one in. I don't like actually to do more than that. The tricky part with a mural designed by lots of people is sometimes it ends up being like kind of cottage cheese. So our challenge is to make it as exciting as possible. So each group had a lot of creative decision making for their section.
What we did is some of us thought it through, and some of us just went in like an adventure. I did it kind of like an adventure. Some people wrote it down on paper and then did it. It is a Japanese coin.
Nice.
I tried copying it. I did my best.
This cat made that one, but we'll want to put that over there and put a few of the rays together so you get a feeling for what it's looking like.
the sun got watery eyes.
Have you had extensive ceramic experience? Here. No. So all the panels that all the hub groups have been making, we want to have those installed the week before the conference starts, just so they're up there. Silo, barn. We've got hawk. I can see fields going back here and then kind of like rolling hills. And we can do that all out of mosaic.
Today participants got to learn mortaring techniques, talk about the design and layout of the mural, and got to check out all the tiles we made.
Does that take away from do they need to touch like this? It's really great to have people come consistently and really feel like they belong. I can think of some in particular that brought their kids every time, and the kids became kind of part of the family.
What I'm thinking is like this like foot. I think we would need like a smaller version. We just had a conversation about like who did it and what it was about.
Some of the smaller, more creative metal pieces were made at our Manitou Skillshare session by community members and volunteers.
Little tiny bends. Try to keep it like as circular as possible.
So the Manitou Art Center opens their doors to us to work there, and every Wednesday afternoon we're there working with community groups on some project or another, and for this semester it's all for the library. So a lot of people have learned how to weld.
When we started all our hub groups, we had a bunch of different designs based off of like different themes like life, the sciences, geology, yada yada. And we are taking those drawings that are sort of the simplest but most straightforward and turning them into welded metal components.
Gary told me to try to get a real good circle pattern. Now I want to flatten it out a bit. Just kind of little side lines.
These are some of the metal things that they've made. We can put them out in the sun, whatever you want.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Actually, I've got all of them. Let's put all of them on.
Sometimes you have a really elaborate tile idea and it doesn't translate well into clay, and sometimes you have a really good welding idea but it doesn't translate well into metal. So we were able to incorporate a lot of different ideas and give some nice 3D elements to the mural.
Getting there.
They're like basic line drawings, so when the sun hits them, they'll be a little bit off of the wall and they'll cast a shadow and it'll look really, really cool. So we're just playing around with getting some of this all laid out and bent into shape. Like this is going to be our bottom one here, and got to bend that to come meet at that point. That is working. That's about right. Clear.
You guys saw this, right?
Oh yeah, that's nice. That's very cool.
Oh wow.
So that was, I got to fabricate it with some other kids, but the drawing was made by somebody from this group, so.
I'm not an artist, but I loved being involved with
You
it.
look at it really close, you can't tell.
The mural itself was the end product, but it really was about bringing different groups together and kind of showing what we could accomplish together, not with one person's vision or one person, idea, but that it was really, kind of bringing it all together.
This is going to be amazing. And so you notice how we got the grout kind of darker over there where the tiles were darker. I think it looks nice. Most of them, the panels are done. We've just got to grout them. And meanwhile, Pikes Peak Community College Welding, I'm making the frames for them, and they're 4/5 done. So they're going to finish. The only thing is there's another little step where we have to take them to the powder coaters, get them powder coated, and then everything comes together. Then we've got to get the scaffolding together, and that's all donated, so that's a little bit of work to coordinate. And then we'll get up there, hammer drill, attach them, and then the tiles that these guys are making will be the fill-in in between.
Okay, great.
Is there something else that I can do?
Millions of things, trillions of things. I would say it's unlimited the amounts of things you can do right now. It's coming in quick. When it's all said and done, I think you're going to have a work of art that the architects that worked on all the buildings, from the old Carnegie, the original Carnegie, to the modern expansion of the Penrose Library, would look at and say, nicely done. Who wants to do a final clean? The final clean. The final clean. And at the same time, people who just walk up will be like, wow, cool, look at that. Look at that. That wasn't there last time. Isn't that neat? Oh, let's go look at it. So that's the goal, and that's kind of the sign of a good work of art, that it draws people in and they want to look at it for a second time or a third time or a fourth time. Awesome. And we're going to need probably just a little cleanup tomorrow, but all it'll be is a sponge, just little puff.
We are an old people, we are a new people, we are the same people, deeper than before.
You know, community built is something as old as the earth, really, as old as human beings are. It's really at its function, its core, it's about bringing people together in common to, you know, really be able to build or create something that represents the whole community and brings those people together.
Let's get it all lined up.
People have been doing this for a very, very long time through the great cathedrals. Native Americans did ceremonial mounds that were really about bringing their community together as much as expressing themselves through the mounds. And this work has continued through all that time. And the more recent incarnation of Community Built Association was a group of community builders, the catalysts, used to be called the shamans, the people who helped catalyze and bring the community together, the artists, the architects. And many of us were out there and we needed our own community to support us in the work that we were doing in communities.
I got involved with Community Built through my friends Marvin and Lillianne Rosenberg, and they brought me to my first conference before I'd done much of anything. And they said, come on, you got to do this, it's amazing. And it changed my life then.
Oh my gosh, these look fabulous. Yeah. Fabulous. Ooh, this looks really good. I'm a big fan.
And later, after it's set up, if you want to go and add a few little spots.
I think I might.
But you could also do it in one.
That'd be cool
see how
too.
that looks, and it might have some sparks to it.
Yeah. Awesome.
I think the initial impact was you can go out in the world and do pretty much whatever you want, and it's possible, and there's people that want to partake, and you can have a profound impact.
Everything I've learned here, I want to take back with me as a teacher and forge new relationships between the public education system and the communities.
Keep those glasses on.
Generally, there'll be a facilitator that comes to the area and looks for a need. The people of the area help generate that need and then take part in the process of raising funds and finding volunteers and helpers and experts and come together to create a project that otherwise wouldn't have been.
So what we're going to do is, like, this is the freaky part. Slide that on. Now I can actually use the tool to, like, smear it into all these edges. Conversely, if you want to try the grout float, it's kind of nice because it really cleans it up. Like that. And with the extra, you can slide it in here. And I've done that like 40,000 times, so I'm used to doing it. Takes a little practice. Now the key with cleaning it is you want the sponge really wrung out. So it's really dry, fluffy, light. Now what we're going to do, and it's really easy to this moment, especially when we're doing like our finish thing, to be like, oh my God, it's all gone. But don't worry about it. You're going to go in and clean it up. And let's get the edges too. And now it's mostly done.
Just real close over here in Denver, in Fort Logan Mental Health Center. I was asked to do a sculpture with the kids. I'd never done any of the work, and I was amazed with, these were children that had with mental illness, and I was amazed at that they just so gravitated to the work, started talking about their life, and that they came together and would get so involved, not just in the design, but the construction and what that meant. And then people who had an animosity towards the kids, the custodians, suddenly started working with them and contributing. And then it became the topic of conversation for older people who normally have a trouble communicating about what was happening. And it became a way of building community. It then moved on to realizing they didn't have a playground. And so then they suddenly built a playground around this sculpture that was done, and I was like, having been a community organizer and an artist, I went, wow, this is everything together in one wonderful place.
Thank you all so much. And for those of you who live in the Springs, I'm so excited to just continue building rad, transgressive, awesome, weird, things together and just keep having that going. So Thank you so much.
We can do a lot more together than we can individually. And yes, that requires kind of a different approach and a little bit more of a cooperative, collaborative way of thinking, which can sometimes be difficult, but it has lots of rewards. Your thing might be bringing music programs to the world. And you've talked to some folks and renting space and paying people and instruments, and it's overwhelming. Well, once you embrace the community built model, there's a method where you can do it even maybe on a small scale, but have some big return.
I've just started my first community built project where we're doing a community mosaic mural. We're working with kids at schools, and people come to my studio and are making tiles. And in the last 5 weeks, I've worked with, over 100 kids, and 50 people have been to my shop to make things. And so my first physical community build is happening as we speak.
Often a lot of cool things come out of it that you hadn't even planned.
Kind of talk about, what is a mural? And I said, well, we're going to take your drawing and I'm going to help you transfer it into clay. We'll cut it out, you can paint it, and it's going to live in this mural forever. And I've done that now with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, kindergarten and 1st graders, 5th graders, people who are in their 80s, 2-year-olds in the shop. The exact same process with all of them. And it's been really interesting to see how it doesn't really matter where you fall in that spectrum. Everyone's making something wonderful, and the classrooms get quiet. They start out, I don't know about this drawing, and the teachers come in. They say, I've never heard them like this. Why is it so quiet in here? They're making something.
The beauty with the mural, and also how it relates to the Community Built Conference, is the power of community built. So here's a mural. People thought, hey, it's a lot of money. Let's wait till we raise the money. And we say, yeah, it's a lot of money, but you can break that big pile down into, construction company will help with this, and some moms and dads will help with this, and the local bakers will help with that, and the recyclers can help with that. And once the community all comes together, it really doesn't cost that much money. So in this case, our community built model, we're going to make a really cool mural. But the model, and what the conference really hopes to show people or bring people into, is the power of the community built model.
What's joyful is seeing a whole younger crop of people coming in and really finding that magic of what they can do as a catalyst for the communities, but what it does for them as well.
When we designed the mural for the wall, we really wanted it to fit in with the architectural presence of this site. And so one of the main influences, the Carnegie Library. But also the garden below it, the fence, the Knights of Columbus Hall, the modern Penrose with the glass and the metal. And we wanted to make something that would be simpatico with all those different architectural statements. So there are metal motifs, symbols that are up on the Carnegie, and that get simplified and reiterated up above. So those are a box, a circle, bisected with an X. So basically we took that, shrunk it down a little bit, and popped it up there in a very regular statement. So everything else has a little bit more of a flow and organic nature to it. But those are very regular, and they reference the upper architecture.
Full-on construction site now. Once the scaffolding arrives, exciting!
We had 8 sections of scaffolding to get us up the extra 12 feet onto the wall where we needed to be.
The scaffolding for 3 weeks, that's $5,000. They delivered, donated. Yay. So this is the biggest mural installation that we've done. We've actually done bigger murals, but they were painted murals on the ground. So this is the biggest serious kind of construction site, heightened on scaffolding scenario. Whenever you get on scaffolding, you've opened the door for people getting hurt. So there was some concern that we were able to keep it safe. And as it turns out, it was really a fabulously safe site. Just the nature of the levels of the scaffolding and how we had a back layer that was a little higher. And it just worked perfectly with the installation here. There's a conference, we share best practices, presentations, this and that. The boot camp was the 4 days leading up to the conference. And it was a chance for emerging community-built professionals to just really dive into this process and to really rub shoulders and elbows and exchange ideas with these folks that have been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years.
This is CrossFit at its best.
And what was really critical for this project is installing those big, heavy metal units with the mosaic in it, hundreds of pounds.
It's like super close, so just give us a sec.
Would be really tough for my little crew to do. But with all these young, strong people,
please.
5 or 6 folks holding it, 2 or 3 back there, like, okay, try it up a foot, do that. And then another crew coming in with the hammer drills, really facilitated that really, really easily. You never know how it's gonna really look, even with all your planning and models and schematic drawings. So when we got that first one up, got off the scaffolding, went back and looked at it, everybody was just grinning, ear to ear, smiles and high fives.
It's really good. And the dragonfly. It's the sun now. I'm sticking my finger in there.
We weren't able to get that much work done during the conference because it was snowing and pretty miserable, and it's not great to do mosaic when it's below freezing or at freezing. It's not good for the mortar. But after the conference, we were able to get a lot of locals who attended the conference to help out for an hour or two, and a lot of hub group people to come help us out. So that was pretty great.
Overwhelmingly, when people got here and they got the chance to work on the scaffolding, they were focused on what they were doing, and they were really putting all the skills they'd learned in the hub groups to use on the wall. And that was kind of gratifying to see. Even some of the littlest kids were really picking it up. And, you know, what do you need before you go on the wall? Okay, I need some mortar, I need a marching trowel, I need the tile nippers, I need my glasses, I need a palette knife, and I need a selection of tiles, da-da-da-da. Great, good to go.
It was a little scary at first, and definitely scary for some of the other people who did it too, but it was really fun and a really awesome opportunity for a lot of community members. Like, when have you done construction like that feels so legitimate and awesome? Like, it's really easy to sit in a classroom and make a tile, but a totally different experience to put it on a mural up on a ladder and watch your project from start to finish.
Yeah, we had some days of snow and some rain, but in between that, you know, we had just tons of volunteers working under a big tarp, you know, covering the art, and then just piece by piece putting the tiles up there.
It looks better from the ground when there's a good connection and flow between all of them. So we want each one to look unique and a little original, but still have a good continuity of colors and pattern. Okay. So the same but different. So if you guys put some bigger squares in here, I think it would really tie it together and really make these little bits pop too and make them shine.
It was a great opportunity to meet different people in the community and be a part of the installation and go through the tiles and pick out, like, I remember when TJ made that one, or I made that one, and I'm glad I get to put it on the wall.
I mean, I'm an artist, and I like the hands-on part of it, I would say. Like, we get out there and actually get on the wall and spread the mortar and score tiles and stuff. It's kind of satisfying to work with your hands.
We made a point to be really inclusive, so if a large group showed up, we had a spot for them on the wall, and if only 2 or 3 showed up, we had a space for them too.
Is it long enough?
Yeah. We had a lot of people walk by when we were putting it up and want to join in for a few hours or 30 minutes or just sit and watch for a little bit. We get a lot of nice compliments and comments of people coming by.
it was really neat to be able to see from the library. I think, you know, staff and patrons would come to the windows and be like, oh, what have they put up today? And so just over that, I think, 3-week period, you know, of watching it go from just the 5 big elements to then all of what it looks like now. It was fascinating.
A lot of people come to the library every day, and it was such a treat for them to watch it go up, and now they get to experience it whenever they come.
The library really tries to reflect our community, and then the library becomes a community gathering place. So this project was really all about that. You know, people were gathering in different parts of the community, and then the final project was installing it here at the library, where we could really show that community involvement and that community effort.
Feels good to be done. It's a long process, big effort, a lot of people working on it, and came out fabulous.
The unveiling was really fun. We didn't think anyone was going to come because it had been raining all day. I was expecting maybe 10 people to show up, but there were closer to 45, 50 people there. Several people got to talk about their experience working in a hub group or working on the tile or being part of the conference. And a lot of people came by who were really just shocked and surprised that this beautiful piece of art was here. And a lot of people asked me, like, oh, is the artist here? Like, who made this? And it's like, well, everyone here made it, so there are many artists here.
3, 2, 1.
So the unveiling was really cool to get everybody to come out, and everybody did, considering it was raining and funky, and we had a great crowd. We did try to figure out a way to like cover the whole wall in a ribbon or some kind of, you know, blanket that we could just drop, but it became apparent that ain't gonna happen. There's like too many metal pieces, and it's 98 feet, so it's tough to find. To have TJ talk, and not just talk, but read from the speech that he had prepared and edited and, you know, really worked on. That was great, and it was very eloquent, I thought.
All the volunteers like me worked hard on this mural, and I believe it is beautiful. We worked on this for months. In volunteering, I learned how to make tiles, mix grout, fire clay, and place together mosaic. Like mosaics, the people also came together. 5 separate groups worked towards the same goal. Everyone shared ideas and everyone had a voice.
Oh, it was just really neat. It was as cool as I could have imagined it, and all the cooler because it was a crappy weather day.
Without all these wonderful people, teachers, board, past board, we wouldn't be able to do this.
So far, people have been super psyched, really going out of their way to tell us how much they like it.
One of my favorite library quotes is, great communities build great libraries, and great libraries build great communities. I think we can now add something to that. And it's great libraries and great communities, when they work together, build great art.
This project has started before he was on board, and to have him come and be like, love the process, love the product, the whole thing, this is really great. This is what libraries are all about, bringing people together and learning and exploring and doing new things and giving back. So that was really cool.
A lot of people are excited to see their own tiles or see tiles of people they know or see things they recognize, whether it's looking at the natural one and seeing like, oh, that's an owl, or oh, that's a skull, or oh, that's a Tesla coil, or I have a cell phone like that one too. So it's been fun to have people come and relate to it, and I think all types of people who come to the library can relate to something on the mural and identify something and feel a part of it, even if they did not get a chance to work on it.
I remember doing some of our early murals and being like, we changed the world! You don't really change the world, but you change it a little bit, and the people who work on it got like a nice experience that kind of expands their world. But there's always going to be a percentage, 1%, 5%, 10%, that are like, dang, that is cool. I'm so glad they did that. And they'll bring out-of-town visitors to look at, and it's a source of pride for the city. There's always going to be a small group that do that. And the larger group, in general, they still appreciate it. I get a lot of, well, that's pretty neat. That's a lot better than that blank wall that was there, which to me is not that much of a compliment, but at least it's something. It's very rare that you get somebody say, well, I wish you'd left it blank. And that's never happened to me, actually. But it's happened to somebody somewhere, sometime, I'm sure.
Just raining enough to get your head wet. So
I know if you're just.
I'm in your way. Just yell at me.
No, you're all right. I think I've just got it.
You realize the only people that are going to show up are the ones that are on the agenda. And now you come up here and we'll send you out there.
That's totally. Ah, man.
So somebody was asking, I like to have a musical soundtrack, so I invite him everywhere.